Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about how age can give you freedom to follow your dreams and stop waiting. Today, you'll be meeting Wendy Dickinson, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who's a business coach, former therapist, and works with clients throughout different industries. And we just found out by having a little chat that we all love big dogs. We got a lot of dogs. So funny. Well, welcome to the show, Wendy. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Suzy. I'm excited about our conversation.
Oh my gosh, me too. I know we're going to really have some fun, and we're going to be talking all about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what goes on for real out there when midlife issues collide a little bit with, you trying to run your business and your life. So we're going to be talking about all that. So let's start off with how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and of course, what it is that you do. So take it away.
So, Suzy, I'm going to be 62 this year, and honestly have been involved in small business since I was a teenager. And of course, at that time, we didn't really talk about entrepreneurs. We just talked about people being in business for themselves.
Yeah.
And so I started off, my dad was a high-rise steel worker, and he was on strike more than he was working. And so he left that and started his own company, and it was a construction company. And so he didn't have any sons, and I was the oldest daughter. So boy, we all pitched in and saw him make some pretty serious mistakes. He had no training, no mentor. And he ended up losing the business, lost our home, and he also lost his marriage.
Wow.
So had a really up close and personal view about what happens when when the things you don't know come back to bite you, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then when I was older, my husband and I started a business with another couple, and we had two goals. We wanted to part friends when we were done. And second of all, we wanted to grow it to sell it. And the way we did that was we ended up choosing our target acquirer. And then everything that we did was based on what we anticipated that future buyer would want. So it took a lot of the ego out of the whole thing. And 20 some odd years later, we are still friends. So we achieved our goal. And incidentally, we sold to our target acquirer. So it was a success all the way around.
Oh my God, that is something.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so, combined with my training as a therapist and then the work that we did setting up the business that we had and then watching it go through that process of growth and then selling it, it really created in me this drive to help other people succeed so that they too could enjoy the fruits of their labors, so to speak, with their own businesses.
I love that. But before we go on to your current business, which I can't wait to hear more about, but it took so much courage or nerve, or I don't know what it took to plan a business around a future potential buyer, right?
And I got to tell you, I think that's one of the keys to success is having a vision from day one, even before you file the paperwork. What do you want to do with the thing, right? And for some people, that vision is all about paying for a vacation or having the opportunity to pass something to our kids or whatever. For us, at that time in our lives, our friends were as committed to the vision as we were. And so that was a joint decision. We all sat down, we talked about it. What did we want to do? What's the timeline we're talking about? How do we want to make that happen? Now, of course, we all know if you want to hear God laugh, tell him our plans, right? But I don't think the process of the planning, working through with your partners it is valuable, even if you end up changing the vision long term.
So it's kind of like a retirement plan without retiring.
Mm-hmm. It was. And the interesting thing is all of us went on to start other businesses. My husband has his own business now. I have mine. The two people the other couple, they have a very successful construction business out in Park City, Utah. And so they're doing $1 million projects. So we all went on to other things. So we brought our skills, our aptitudes, if you will, to the table. And we learned from each other and from the experience, and then went on to be successful in other ways.
It's fascinating. I have to say, I interview a lot of people. I've been doing podcasting for 6 years. I haven't heard this one before.
I don't think many people do it, to tell you the truth, based on my experience.
No, it's so interesting and strategic right from the beginning. And you're right. A lot of us are just in survival mode, and we're not thinking so much strategy, long-term strategy, the way you were. And for people to agree is also something. And you're still friends. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, it really was such a great experience. Although at the time, as any of us know who start a business, the early years, it's like drinking from a fire hose. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really difficult to get a handle on things. And it was not my husband or I, it was one of the other people who really took on the day-to-day operations of the company and made it work. I mean, hands down, he is amazing and was. So.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. That's so interesting. Okay. So now you're taking basically everything you learned and your training as a therapist to work with clients. So tell me a little bit about the scope of your coaching practice.
Yeah, I actually started off with the idea that I wanted to help business owners create that vision and then prepare for whatever it is they were going to do to exit their business. That's where I started. And as I got into that, number one, people were like, "Oh, I don't want to think about that. That's a long time away." And of course, I'm like, no, we need to think about this now, right? 10 years from now, it'll be too late. So that was my initial vision. And how the practice has evolved is we now offer strategic planning, succession planning, but also implementing business operating systems to help clients build value within their businesses so that they have the option, at least, to sell later in their careers or tenures.
So your original idea wasn't a good fit with most clients. Like that wasn't the pain point that they were able to articulate and feel.
Yeah. It's kind of, to me, it was kind of like one of those things where a kid on a athletic field hits their head. And so it's bleeding, and you take them to the ER thinking they're going to need a couple of stitches. And it's like, whoops, no, you've got a concussion. So what the kid may not know that they have a concussion. All they're thinking is make this stop bleeding, right? Well, business owners a lot of times are like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't want to think about what's going to happen when I'm going to exit. But it's like, dude, you've got a concussion. You've got to treat that too, right? You've got to be ready for whatever's going to happen. And so as the practice evolved, we were really committed to helping our clients build value within the business and to thinking about that exit, whatever it might be. And so we really made a conscious decision not to be industry specific. Mm-hmm. We're not geographically specific. We have clients that are on, Pacific time, East Coast time, Central time, Mountain time, and distributorships, retail, franchisees, because that's another one where you think, oh, a franchisee, they buy the formula. So that's a done deal, right? No brainer. Yeah. Well, as we know, we can all get in our way in so many different shapes and forms when we're creating our businesses. So we help or try to support clients as they build value within the business and make sure that there are lots of options should they want to leave that business.
What do you think is the main pain point that they come to you with? Like, You know what they always say about mindset coaching, because essentially I'm a mindset coach with entrepreneurs over 50 and with women over 50 who feel stuck and that kind of thing. And it's like, nobody's hiring me for their mindset problems. They're hiring me because of some other things. But we all know that mindset is so foundational. So you know that an exit strategy and thinking about strategy and building wealth and that kind of stuff is critical. But it sounds like your clients, your ideal clients, aren't articulating that right off the bat. What is the main pain point for most of your clients?
I would say there are two. First of all, the business isn't generating the revenue the person had projected. And then secondarily, usually the owner has for a couple of years, if not 3, 4 or more, said to themselves, well, they'll make more money if they work harder and if they work more. And so there's very little balance between what they have going on at home and what they have going on in the business.
Yeah.
So revenue and then also time in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. There you have it.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yes. Revenue and time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, thank you for all of that. And now, as you know, I'm very curious about how being a midlife woman has affected you in running this business. What have your classic midlife issues been that have popped up and affected you in some way at home, at work, or the combination of the two?
You know, thanks for asking this, Suzy, because I don't get a chance to talk about this very often. And I do think it's a conundrum that we all end up in at some point or another. Like, we want to be successful in our businesses. And I started this business in 2015. And so had the opportunity to go through coach training, which I did, loved that, met great people, started the business. And then my youngest daughter was in a car accident. And so she ended up having some pretty serious neck and back injuries. And what I can't stress enough, how much going to doctor's appointments and chauffeuring someone around slows down and takes away from what you're able to do and contribute to your business, right?
Yeah.
And then, like a lot of other people, both my parents, unfortunately, are deceased, but both my in-laws at that point were living. And so, my mother-in-law ended up having a serious fall, ended up with a traumatic brain injury. So there were some things going on that definitely took my time and focus away from the business. And during this same period of time, I moved twice. So
fun. All that stuff wasn't enough for you, huh?
Exactly. And I think I mentioned my husband has his own business. So it's one of those things where starting the business, it would have been so easy to say, oh, I'll wait a couple of years, or I'll wait until next year. I won't do it this year. I'll do it next year. What I chose to do instead was not to wait, but to look at what I could do that day and have it be enough. It wasn't about getting everything perfectly set up. It was about what was one small thing I can do today. And actually, that is the philosophy that I bring to my clients. What is one small thing that you can do today to either grow your business or to do research or to consider what you might want to do when you're no longer working in the business and when that might be? So I think for me, one of the things that I would really encourage your listeners to do is to take a look at their time and their energy and to treat those things as valuable resources, but also to allow yourself to grow and learn and develop, even if it's for 15 minutes in a day.
Yeah, I love that you just pointed out a 15-minute chunk of time. One of the things when I first became an entrepreneur, it was after a layoff of a long-term job. And I remember learning this concept from my mentor where she said motivation and inspiration like to find you working. Now, I don't remember if she shared the quote from somebody else, but I was shocked by that. Like, I remember writing it down and thinking, wow, why am I reacting so strongly to this concept? And it was because, in my mind, inspiration and creativity to write a blog, to develop a podcast episode, to do a large chunk of work that was new and needed a lot of brain work. I needed to clear the deck. Everything needed to be perfect. My desk needed to be clean and everything, I need to sit down and not have interruptions to be able to do that work. And what I had started to notice at the very beginning of, doing this kind of entrepreneurial stuff and online business stuff was that you can't always clear the deck for 3 hours. And what is possible with smaller chunks of time? And that really was an idea that has really helped me over the years, is sometimes just doing something, the act of not procrastinating and taking one small step is massive in terms of momentum and giving your brain something else to focus on because you've started. So you're in a different place than you were before. And it isn't always about finishing fast. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I look at it and the thing that hit me and had the same impact on me as you described the other quote having on you was someone said to me, and it was Christine Kane, I think, was develop a relationship with short periods of time. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I can go ahead and I'm not a numbers person per se. I like to know my numbers, but it's not where I get my energy. And so for me, having a bill come in, oh, let's put that off until the end of the month, right? It's not due until then anyway. On the other hand, I've got 5 minutes. Let's write that check and just get it in the mail.
Yes.
It's like, why put that off? I can just do that and it's done. And so I do believe that you're so right. And I feel like we build momentum that way, right? Even if we're able to do just one phone call or we do one search of some sort. Maybe we're looking to see if our proposed business name is taken by someone else. Just a quick Google search. How much time does that really take?
Yeah.
And each of those kinds of things help us build the momentum that we need to find that inspiration and motivation.
Yeah, it's really this all or nothing thinking and being so goal oriented that only the completion is the only thing that's valued rather than the process, right? Like fascinating the kind of stuff we grow up with. And I'm actually not clear how much of this is a product of us growing up when we did.
Mm-hmm.
Are those values more related to growing up in the 70s than now? I don't know. But certainly it's pretty common with midlife women, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to say that for me, I think probably one of the biggest challenges is on an ongoing basis. It's not a check the box kind of thing, Suzy, but to really look at my priorities on a regular basis.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you the number of times that I kind of slide away from those priorities. And what I mean there, especially for the women who are listening, taking care of yourself, right? It's a pain in the behind to do a lot of the stuff that we do to take care of ourselves. It is.
So true.
Same time, when we take care of ourselves, then we have the energy to do other things, right? That are a lot more fun.
Absolutely. It's certainly one of the main things that I coach on with midlife women. It gets even more complicated because this is a sign of when we grew up is our focus and almost compulsion to put other people first. Mm-hmm. So it's not just finding time for ourselves, but it's always in relationship. It's often in relationship, careful with generalizations, with putting other people first. There's so many women in my community that complain that they don't even have time to read a book.
Yeah.
And so many of us grew up loving books and scholastic books and finding time. We have such a relationship with actual paper books. And, many of us now have made a transition into ebooks and stuff. But yeah, things like that. I caught myself once saying, and of course I made a podcast episode about this because it was my worst mommy moment and I had to share. I caught myself telling my kid who was requesting a mango. He wanted me to cut a mango for him. He saw them ripe on the counter and he couldn't handle a knife. And I actually said, I'm too busy to cut my kid a mango. And so being present and focusing on and appreciating the steps it takes as valuable, not just completing a goal. It's really something I've seen that message over and over again really comes out. But taking care of yourself, it's very easy. It's easy to put ourselves last. And as we age, it becomes more and more important, you know?
Yeah. I have to say though, I love my work. I really have such great respect for my clients. They are amazing people who have such an incredible array of skills and gifts to offer to the world. I will say that one of the downsides about this work that I don't like is the amount that I'm sitting, right? It's just
So true.
Yeah, it's that part stinks.
I just feel my butt getting bigger right now as we speak. It's like,
right? It's like, oh, I'd like to move this around. But, and you know what's crazy? I can't show it to you, but I live on 5.5 acres. I have a really nice driveway that is shady. And it just occurred to me probably a year and a half ago that I could get off of my rear end and in between clients, go and take a lap in the driveway.
what a great idea.
After so long. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. It came.
Wow. How long? Anyway, you're right.
I know.
I finally got that.
Well,
But-
even before you popped on Zoom, I stood up and I was dancing around here, just moving myself around because I have a block of interviews. Yeah. And I'm like, at least I can do that. But you're right. You have a beautiful property. You don't have to go far. You just have to find some shoes.
I just have to get out.
Yeah.
So I would say that's part of making a relationship with that short period of time, right? So instead of just sitting here fiddling around, I can go out and walk the driveway. And then I can come back in and feel like writing a check.
Right. It's so good.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you pointed out in your notes is that there's a positive side to being an older and wiser woman. I'm always saying we're not just getting older, we're older and wiser. But you noted that you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I'll give you a real-time example and then I'll dial back a little bit. I had a prospect that I was introduced to a year ago. And this was someone who presented as wanting to increase the revenue coming into their business and felt like they had taken it as far as they could. And so I responded that I was willing to work with them, gave them the price. They decided they didn't really have the money. And so fast forward a year, now there's a sense of urgency that there was not there the last time we spoke. So I spoke to this person. So at this point, I have spent 3 hours of time, not counting travel time, but 3 hours of time. And the person said they wanted to work with me, wanted the proposal. I sent the proposal and they responded that, would I be willing to work for less? And I said, I respect that you are budget conscious. I happen to know of a few coaches that may be willing to work with you for that cost or that price. If you'd like, I'll check with them. But no, these are my prices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, whatever, we'll see what happens. And the person circled back and said, yes, he did want to work with me. And he's now increasing some of the services that he'd like. So that is a situation that I'm not sure 20 years ago I would have done. I'm not sure 10 years ago I would have done that. Mm-hmm. Right. So I do feel as though I'm at a place where, and again, I know I'm super privileged, right? I can decide who I choose to work with and who I choose not to work with and for what fee. I feel like I have gained the experience, that I have the knowledge and I have the ability to work with people that I do bring value to the table. And getting older helps with that. And actually, I don't even really care a lot of the time or don't give a huge amount of thought to what I'm wearing or how I'm going to look or what that person might expect. I feel like as a woman, number one, I don't want to model that type of behavior for my daughters. Secondly, as a woman who's 61, almost 62, I don't have to justify what I charge. You want to pay what I charge and you want to work with me? Let's talk about it. You don't want to pay what I charge? Okay, I don't mind. It's all right. And I'll try to help you find somebody else to work with, depending on how low it is. And I'm not going to insult anybody I know either, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love that. So you're way more confident in who you are and what you bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I think that women in particular do so much and they discount about 75% of it.
So true.
Yeah.
What I've discovered, a lot of times I end up coaching women about transferable skills because they don't even appreciate that the things they're taking for granted is an actual skill that somebody else doesn't have and that they would pay for. It's just so much a part of who they are. They don't even see it.
Right. Right. And I want to be clear and say too, I feel like couple of muscles that I like to exercise are flexibility and adaptability, but you got to have some things that you're just going to stick to, right? Your value, your health and well-being as a priority. There's some things that are the heuristics that we need to live our lives and be the people that we are. In other ways, yeah, we can be flexible and adaptable, but we have to figure out what's fun to be, in what ways can we, again, as lifelong learners, in what ways can we be flexible and adaptable while having a good time and offering value to the world? And what are the things that we've got to hold the line on?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it. Now, one of the other things that made me smile is I asked a question in the notes about you, like what's surprising about being over 50 and being an entrepreneur. And you've mentioned a few times that your business energizes you. You love it. And it's very exciting to work with your clients. And then you said it's also harder to discipline yourself to do the things you don't like to do. That just made me smile so hard. So tell me a little bit more about that.
I've already hinted that I'm not a numbers person. Right? So, it's I hate doing the mileage for my car. That's so boring. It's like I use the damn car. Okay. I can't go see a client without using the damn car. I don't have a horse. Right. So there's going to be mileage. Can you just take my word for it that I did 25.8 miles? Do I have to get the damn mileage off the odometer? That's stupid. I don't like doing that. I don't like making out notes for, my accountant and that kind of thing. On the other hand, I love sitting down with my clients and I love creating, the notes and the summaries and the things that I think that they should look at. That's super fun. I also hate to vacuum. And as Suzy mentioned, folks, I've got 3 huge dogs in this house on any given day because I have 2 grand dogs that are Bernese Mountain Dogs. Talk about hairy animals. Those 2 are. So I don't like to vacuum.
Oh my God, Wendy, between the 2 of us, we could make wool clothing if we only knew how to spin between all of the dog hair between our dogs.
I don't like doing that.
I always fantasize about doing something with the dog hair.
You ought to go on Instagram sometime and see what people do. It's hilarious.
Oh, I should check that out. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Horrifying, but pretty funny too.
Yeah, it's a little of both. We find dog hair everywhere. It's just really something. Well, tell me now, what are you focusing on in your business and your life? What is the thing you're excited about focusing on?
Growth. I have had the great good fortune to have clients that are fabulous referral sources. And so I have 2 coaches now under contract on my bench. And then I also have the prospect of having my oldest daughter come and begin to work with me. So I'm starting to look at the nuts and bolts of that growth. What kinds of clients will this coach or that coach have? What kinds of clients and what kinds of activities do I want to focus on? And also experimenting with how much growth we really want to go for.
Right.
Those are the things that have my attention right now and are honestly the things I would rather work on.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way? Because you have a lot to offer.
Well, thank you. I have really enjoyed so much our conversation today and really want to encourage your listeners to not wait, to value their time and energy and go for whatever it is they want to go for. It's possible. So the best way to get in touch with me is probably by email or by phone. And so email is Wendy at Ascend Coaching Solutions, and that's solutions with an S on the end. And then my number is 372-7575. And you guys, you can find that on my website, ascendcoachingsolutions.com.
Amazing. Wendy, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy day and sharing all of this. I really appreciate your story and your unique approach to really think about what you can do to help your clients see the big picture too, and possibilities about exiting and having more fun. It's so good. I really love what you're doing. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Suzy, and thanks to all your listeners. And I just want to encourage everybody to do what you can to maximize your returns and minimize your regrets in life.
So good. That is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on too to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with the show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.